What's poppin', my freeform renegades? You are tuned into the Freeform Network. Thank you for joining us for another fun episode of Freeform Radio. I am your host, Noel, with my co-host, Daniel.
Yes, sir. Chilling over here in some AC, even though it's not really that hot today. It's just okay.
And Andy.
Just here chilling. It's all good. Recuperating from a kid's birthday party.
Very, very nice. Well, it's another beautiful day here in Chicago. We got some nice weather finally after this heat wave we just had. So wherever you listeners are, we hope you're sitting cool, feeling good. And we're just going to jump right into this. So let's start with Andy, actually. It looks like you were kind of getting into this war that's finally coming to an end. America finally pulling out of Afghanistan. What are your thoughts on that, Andy?
I mean, yeah, I woke up. As the time of this recording, it was. I kind of was keeping up with it. How the Taliban came back with vengeance and they took over half the country in like a matter of like 10 days or something.
Days, yeah.
And then Biden made some comments like, "Yeah, we're getting the fuck out," like whatever. He's like, they're gonna be able to handle this shit, and then like, it's just like you saw the collapse, and then you look at it this morning when I woke up. I was checking the news and I saw that they're on the outskirts of Kabul, and they already that the Afghans are already in talk with them for like a fucking surrender, like they're not even gonna fight it, and. I was reading that the president of Afghanistan already bounced. He's like, I'm out of here. They overtook like a lot of the capitals from the provinces, and they're just it looks like they're being welcomed, and so America,
The Taliban, you're saying?
the
It's being
Taliban,
welcome.
they're in negotiations, and the Biden administration. Just yeah, man. The response, I get it. Like it's a double-edged sword. I'm glad there was some agreement to pull out. Trump kind of started this, but like always, because it's Trump, they're fuck that guy. They're like fuck this guy, so we're doing our own thing. And he just laid it out. We're just doing all this shit out, and they kind of expedited this. And now they're like, yeah, we're leaving on this day. And then the Taliban's like, fuck it, we got it, because it was supposed to be like in May, and then it got pushed out. And then they did the announcement, and then they're like, well, let's get our shit together and just start taking over. They'll be out of here at the end of this month. And Biden's response, lack thereof, which, like I said, it's kind of a double-edged sword. I'm glad we're pulling our troops out of there, but the collapse of this thing, us being there for 20 years, it's kind of shocking. The money we spent, the lives that we lost over there, just for it to be like, oh, as soon as we announce that we leave, it basically just collapses if we're not there.
Right. Hey, man, I can't believe it's been 20 years.
Yeah.
Yes. Bush.
The reports this morning just on the money we spent, which is mind-boggling. It was some one number I heard was 85 billion, and that was on was it Fox News, I believe. And then Politico was reporting this morning that the embassy they're in desperate mode. They're burning stuff up. They're gonna pull all the flags out. It's kind of like Vietnam. I know a lot of people. I mean, the war was over when just about, well, it wasn't really over, but when that war ended, I saw a lot of stuff and talked to a lot of people about it, about Vietnam when the fall of Saigon, and this is kind of reminiscent of what's going on now. You see helicopters going to the embassy, pulling people out. They're scrambling just to remove anything that remains American, and they're burning shit up. They're all the paperwork. It's all the classified paperwork. So it's kind of reminiscent of that, and I think seeing that now in my lifetime, before I just what I saw with Vietnam, it's kind of a feeling like, man, America's foreign policy, and Biden came in like, I fucking know everybody in the world stage on all these leaders, and what you're seeing kind of now, it's just like it's kind of depressing, to be honest with you. You have this, they have no long-term strategy. They just knew they wanted to get out, and like I get it, but the way it's being executed and what you're seeing now, it's just fucking, it's sad.
The thing is though, what was the desired outcome for, like, we it's not our country, it's not our place to govern. So
Yeah,
how long can the US even hold up that, that, I guess,
exactly.
resistance?
Yes. So the only reason that government, the democratic government that was there, that was elected, was because of us. But as soon as we leave, you just see it collapse, and we can't be fighting other people's wars. And we built it up, and now it's just like, well, that's why I said
Yeah.
it's like, yeah, I'm glad we're getting out of there. But you would think the thing, everything that the government did there, the American government, along with NATO, like other forces, is just to quickly dissolve, like how it is right now. It's fucking shocking.
That's because we didn't change the people. We just changed
Yeah,
the laws. We changed the laws. We changed the government, but we didn't change the people. The people didn't want that. They wanted everyone out for the longest time. And I don't know if people are saying it's the Taliban, but what if it's just fucking people? Like, what if it's just people that didn't want other countries meddling in their affairs? We don't know for sure it's Taliban, but that's what CNN is saying. That's what a lot of people are saying. And I just wonder, like, every single one, like, did you interview them? Like, hey, who are you? Oh, you're Taliban? Okay. Like, what if it's just regular shop owners, barbers, and fucking random people from all walks of life in Afghanistan that are just like, no, we're tired of having anyone else here telling us what to do. Like, get the hell out of here. That's what I thought it was. I'm like, okay, maybe it is. Some of it is the Taliban, but I don't buy that every single person that's there resisting is them.
well, I think we're gonna see in the coming months, to see, knowing how the Taliban was before the U.S. invaded, with along with NATO, to see where, uh, if they start implementing some of that old militant religious extremism that we hear about. So we'll know immediately.
Well, to be honest, I don't know what people expected. There is no good way to pull out of situations like this. And yeah, you have hopes, like you said, Andy, after you see the lives that it cost for us to be down there, the money, the time, people's lives changed from being out there. And after being pulled out for a week and it all collapses, it is disheartening, but I don't know what people really expected. It is difficult to fight regimes like that. And let's say, with the issues in Venezuela or whatever, and we go in there, we put our might, we try to correct the ship. Anytime you pull out, no matter what time it takes for you to be down there, it's going to be difficult because it's up to the people that are left to really keep things organized. So I don't know what people really expected. It is disheartening after all that time and the lives and the money, but you know, it's a foreign country that is not ours, so we can't do nothing about it.
And then, were there any other countries involved trying to help the situation? What
Yeah,
if
it
like
was NATO led. The Brits were there. Poland was there.
because you
A
don't
lot
hear
of the
mention of
European
that.
countries.
Like,
Yeah, dude, there was a ton of them in. And that was like the first. Remember, that was first before before Iraq. So that one, there was a lot of NATO. So I mean, a lot of European. I mean, it wasn't as big contingent as we had, but they had people there, uh, helping the U.S. out. So yeah, it's gonna be the foreign policy under this administration. It's gonna be. He came in as like, I fucking know everything, and like, this is, to me, it's just all wrong. But I don't know. I wonder what our allies think. Like, is this what happens? U.S. pulls out. Like, are they gonna help us? And like in other countries that. So like, we still have bases in Europe. We still have bases in Asia, Japan after the World War II. So I never understood why wouldn't they have a big base there with like I mean they had a couple, I think 2,000 troops or something, but
Well, they have an embassy down there, but they're ready to pull out just because it's becoming so unstable that they can't even keep the embassy down there.
well yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like the after World War II, there was a lot of troops stationed across Europe. In Japan, and like to prevent this type of shit. I mean, like a lot of them. This it got winded down. It's been winding down, and they're just basically got troops there to secure everybody, gets the fuck out of there. Because at the time of the recording, I was reading that they have troops there just to make sure every American and people that help the America translators, people who are allies, to get them out of there, so they won't do shit to them because they're helping America.
Yeah,
And
it's sad.
yeah, it's disheartening, man. But what are we gonna do? But it's a good and bad. We're gonna get people out of U.S. soldiers out of there, so we don't gotta deal with this bullshit ever again. Because 20 years for a fucking war, man, and just like that, it's just a bad ending, I guess. But other thing, I've been wrestling heavy the last couple shows. It seems like every time we talk about wrestling, somebody's dying. So we had a beautiful Bobby Eaton of the Midnight Express passed away this week. I don't know if you guys know him. He had like an awesome blonde mullet.
Yeah, at first when I saw you write it down, I didn't know who that was, and I didn't feel like googling it. But yeah, I remember now that you're saying um, their tag team. It was famous for a minute back in the '80s. So it's too bad to hear that he passed away. But I didn't really follow his career too
Yeah, I knew
closely either.
him. I knew him from the Midnight Express, and then the thing that I remember most, he wasn't like ripped. He had like normal sized body. Like he was in shape, but he wasn't like fucking full of muscles. He had a blonde mullet, right? And then his finisher was, how Hogan did the leg drop. He would get off the top rope, and then do the fucking leg drop from up there. And I was just like, damn, dude, like that. To me, I was like, that's fucking awesome. And then apparently he had some issues with some other stuff, and I was listening to Jim Cornette's podcast. He fell down the stairs, and then they did some testing, and then they found him. He was real sick with some other stuff. And he just passed away due to health issues that a lot of these wrestlers face as they get older, and all that the body, the pain that the bruises and injuries they take in the ring takes a toll on them, especially as they get older.
Right. I mean, the Midnight Express were kind of like the Rockers, and then like the Hardy Boys after that. And I don't really know any other current tag teams that are kind of like them, but they had that, kind of like super exciting kind of wrestling style that tag teams usually have. And yeah, I wasn't a huge fan. To me, that's a little before when I started watching. I knew of them, but to me, I was more, in like with the Fabulous Freebirds and stuff like that. I kind of dug their stuff a little bit more, just because they were like American Dukes of Hazards, like Southern, and it just looked a lot cooler to me
Yeah,
when they were wrestlers.
that's what I'm saying. Like they were when I watched wrestling as a kid on the NWA/WCW type of shit. I was like, man, shit's real, and Cornette, and they just go around fucking fighting people, and after the original, there was the Midnight Express with Eaton and another guy. Then he left, and then they brought in Stan Lane, and I kind of remember them mostly, and they were champs, and mostly in NWA, slash WCW. And then towards the end, he had a couple matches in the late '90s in WCW, and he was just older, and I mean he was a great worker, but by then I think only like wrestlers and older people knew who he was, but I fucking knew him. And So yeah, I mean, just it sucks. Like I said in previous shows, every time like these old wrestlers go, I like a piece of my childhood because I remember them just watching them on fucking TV like every weekend. They would show up, and it is what it is. But hopefully he's in a better place. And generally, what I know and read about him, he wasn't. He was just a good man. You didn't see him really get into any trouble with nonsense like with steroids and women and all this other shit. He just showed up to work, did what he was supposed to, and he went home.
Right. Yeah, like you mentioned, he had like an average physique, but he wasn't like all muscle bound.
Right.
So he probably didn't live that fast life.
Yeah, no, yeah. He was everybody that talks about him, they have good things to say. So generally to me it's like, well, you don't hear shit that much shit being talked about. You must be a decent human being, you know? So yeah, we'll see. But we're gonna go to Danny right now. It looks like he's had a interesting couple of months. I think he's ready to share. Me, you kind of told me and Noel kind of knew about it, but are you finally done unboxing everything from your recent move?
No, no, no way, man. I think I'll probably be unboxing and unpacking and settling in for like the next couple months. But yeah, I just recently moved out of the west suburbs and went farther to the northern suburbs or northwest suburbs.
Or southern Wisconsin?
Yeah, yeah, I guess I'm probably closer to Wisconsin than I was the city where I was born. But yeah, I recently moved, started that new chapter in my life, and yeah, everything's going good so far. You know, just settling in. The move was challenging, but luckily I had friends and family that came and helped out moving to kind of save me a buck, so I didn't have to, pay movers to come move all this shit for me. But it was a super challenging just because of not only just everybody coming and help, but man, the weather sucked that day. It was like super, super hot. And, you know, I'm older, but I still kind of feel like I could rock if I needed to. You know, like you hand me a beer and some good music, and I could still rock out, kind of thing. But I felt old that day. It was like the closest I've ever gotten to like passing out. Uh, I don't know if it was the heat. I'm also diabetic, so I didn't know if it was my sugars. So when Alana saw me and she's just like, "How you doing?" and I'm like, "Man, this is rough. I'm glad I have the help. I'm glad I have the help that I have. Otherwise, I don't know if I would be able to do this." And then she's just like, "Yeah, oh yeah, yeah. You just take it easy, take a breather." So I took a breather, but at the same time, I can't have everybody else doing all the work for me. So I'm out there hustling too, trying to do what I can. And the next time I came in to grab something else, Alana had a water in her hand on one hand, and then the other hand she had a chocolate bar. And she's like, "Here, take both of these. One in case you're dehydrated, and then the other one in case your sugars are low." So, it was rough, man. It was rough, but luckily, with the help of family and friends, I was able to fit 98% of everything into the truck, and then a few people offered to help take stuff in their cars, which I'm grateful for. And yeah, man, after the initial big move, I had a few trips to take in my car, and then my dad let me use his truck to take a few straggling boxes and whatnots. But yeah, man, we're finally in the new house. We're chilling here. Central air is one of the big new pluses for this new house. The whole house did not have central air, so it was kind of rough during the winters. But yeah, man, it's sweet. It's a place a little smaller than what we were used to from the old house, but Alana's super happy. I'm happy, and Junior starts school next week, so we'll see how the move affects him. But yeah, we're super stoked and super happy to be in the new place.
Yeah, congrats on your purchase. Let everybody know Danny's a first-time home buyer, so it's gonna be challenging, Danny, to say the least.
Yeah, for sure, man. I mean, even with the house that I was renting, it was challenging at times just because I did have a deal with the previous the owner that I would take care of minor fixes. So when the toilet broke, I fixed it. When the water boiler broke, I fixed it. When there was a leak in the basement, I fixed it. Stuff like that, I took care of myself. So it was like maybe what would be like preschool. Like you're starting off like, all right, yeah, you're gonna learn half, and then the other half you're gonna play kind of stuff. Uh, that's how I kind of felt that house was, where I learned a few things about becoming a homeowner, even though I didn't technically own the house, but I took care of things in a lot of ways, like if I was a homeowner. So yeah, man, this new house, it does have its few challenges. It's not the greatest. I didn't move into a mansion or anything like that, so there are little fixer-upper things that we got to do. But I'm excited, man. I'm excited to do it. I'm excited for the opportunities to be able to grow in this house and kind of develop it and maybe be a little bit of an investment for us for the future, in case we ever decide we want to get something bigger and better. But yeah, man, it's exciting.
Are you ready to tell the first solicitor that comes to your house, like, get the fuck off my stoop? And then you'd be like, it's my house, get the fuck out. You ready to tell them that?
Yeah, actually, yesterday we were we were visiting Alana's grandma, so we were back by the old house because Alana's grandmother used to live across the street from us, from the house that we were renting. And when we got there, I noticed that I forgot my little nameplate that was hanging by the window that said, "We do not accept solicitors and we'll call the police," and whatnot. And it did deter a bunch of solicitors. You would see them walk past, see that sign, and they wouldn't even knock. And when we passed, I'm just like, oh man, I forgot that sign. I'm gonna have to get another one for this new house to make sure that nobody comes and bothers us. But yeah, nobody's came to knock on my door. Some guy came yesterday up to the door. I was installing the Ring camera in the front door, and some guy came walking up, and I'm like, oh shit, here comes some guy selling me something. But it was actually the mailman. I hadn't seen him since I work.
You're like, back the fuck up, who are you, man?
Right. But I saw him coming up, but it was just the mailman.
Real quick, that I had where I live, we have a lot of religious people come, like Jehovah's Witnesses, Baptists, and all that shit. And I put a sign up. My wife's like, I'm tired of these people coming. And so she put a sign up that stating that we're Catholic and we're proud of our denomination, and like everybody else, basically fuck off. You worship Jesus different, so get away. And
Right.
that didn't. I think it deterred the Jehovah's Witnesses, but the Baptists still show up once in a while. And then I start communicating with them a little bit. And then I'm like, I'm good, bro. You could go to our church. We're over there. And then I'm just like, I gotta go inside, man. And then they're like, oh, okay. And they give you they give you a little postcard to go somewhere far to go to church.
Right. I would have those people stop by in my old house, and I didn't mind it. I would give them 5 minutes to talk to me and give me whatever leaflet they have. I didn't, give them false hope, like, oh my God, yeah, thank you for saving my life. I'm coming to your church. I let them know that, I'm a Christian and I don't believe in that, but they could tell me what they want to tell me, and I'm willing to hear what they have to say. And so I would be courteous for like 5 minutes, and then after that I'd be like, all right, well, thank you for the information, I appreciate it, and then I'll let them go on their way. But yeah, I didn't mind those. I mean, they're doing, Jesus in their denomination, they're doing his work and trying to spread the word. So I can't slam the door in front of people like that. Even though they believe slightly different from what I believe, their heart's in a good place. So I'll give them 5 minutes.
Yeah, the early in the pandemic, when the first lockdown happened, or whatever the fuck you want to call it now, there's a guy that came to the house. I opened the door, and he stuck his hand out, and he's like, hey, I want to introduce myself. You're sounding like some water shit. And I'm like, dude, I just leave. Don't you know there's a pandemic going on? The guy ain't shaking your hand. You're not even supposed to be out here. And I just closed the door on him and shit.
Jesus.
Yeah, well, that was early on, and I was just like, what? He's like, yeah, I'm selling this water filtration system. Like, get the fuck out of here. Nah, man, you just need to leave. Did you know the
Yeah,
pandemic going on?
it is funny that, yeah, when the pandemic first started, I had something similar where I had like a piece of the siding falling off of the house that I was renting. So I hired some guy to come climb up and nail it back down. And right as he was leaving, he stuck his hand out to shake me. And this was during the pandemic, was like full force. There was no vaccine or whatever you want to call it, not a vaccine, but there wasn't no shots. So it's like full force. People are dying. The scares out there. And he stuck out his hand, and I'm like, shit, man, do I shake this guy's hand? He was a paisa, so I'm like, I gotta shake his hand. I'm like, you think I'm disrespecting him if I don't? I'm just gonna have to wash my hands after I'm done. So I shook his hands, and then I went in and just washed the shit out of my hand. But yeah, it's different times. It's weird to think now if somebody were to stick out their hand to shake it, I would probably shake it a little more comfortably. But yeah, it's definitely different times for sure.
When someone sticks out their hand to shake, I don't know about you, especially during business, I shake their hand and right away I get my hand sanitizer out and I use it and I offered it to them. It used to be surprising how many people actually. I thought people would get offended, but no, they usually take the hand sanitizer too.
Right.
At first I was like, fuck it, but I don't care, and I'm like, I just fucking do it, and I'm like, you want some? And they're like, yeah, please, and then that's it. I thought people would get offended, but I don't think no one gives a fuck. Everybody understands now with what's going on.
No, yeah,
It's
for sure.
the new age, man.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But yeah, man, moved in. I'm sure I'll have plenty of more stories to say of my adventures in this new move in. But excited and
Quick question,
happy.
man.
Yeah,
Quick
what's up?
question. Any ghosts? Any ghost stories yet?
No, yeah, I
A valid
I
question.
I gotta say this kind of quietly, but I was kind of worried and not worried at the same time moving in here if there was going to be anything that we would have to deal with like that. But I didn't vocalize it with Alana and Junior because I didn't want to freak them out. But it
Mhm.
was in the back of my head. But no, knock on wood. Thank you, Jesus. Nothing
Need a
that.
blessing.
And it was one of the things my mom told me when I first moved in. She's like, you got to get a priest out there and bless the house. And I'm like, yeah, I don't believe in the Catholic Church coming out here and doing that, but if it will make you sleep better, I'll look into it as soon as I settle in. So yeah, nothing to report on that hand. Everything is cool and nice and quiet. I sleep good. I don't have anybody tapping me on the shoulder telling me, hey, wake up. So everything so far so good. Thank God everything is fine.
That's good, man.
Yeah. But the other thing I want to talk about quickly was I watched this thing on Netflix just recently, man, and it was pretty interesting, man. I don't know if you guys have seen it. It's called Founder, and it's basically the history of how McDonald's. How do they say dramatize or like
You saw the one with the actual movie, not the documentary with Batman, right?
this is with Batman as the
Yeah.
actor.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Michael
Keaton.
Keaton.
Michael
Yeah.
Keaton. Yeah. So they might have a
Yeah.
documentary of this as well, but yeah, I watched the Michael Keaton one, and he plays this older gentleman that's like a salesman, just going selling milkshake users, and before that he was selling cups and he was selling this. He was always getting into like these schemes,
He was a
not
sales guy.
not
Yeah.
schemes, but like selling
Like a hustle.
vacuums, selling Bibles, always selling something. Yeah. And he in the process of selling his milkshakes, there was one company in San Fernando, I think it was in California, that bought 5 of them in one shot. And he was just like, holy shit, I think this is a mistake. So he calls them up, calls the two gentlemen, they're two brothers, and they're like, no, actually it is a mistake. I need 8 or something like that. So he goes down there and checks it out, which I didn't know about. I didn't know San Fernando was the first McDonald's. And yeah, the two brothers started this fast food place. They go kind of through a quick history of how they developed it, how they changed it, how they started, and how the two brothers kind of developed this formula that now is so widely used that every fast food place does stuff like this,
The
things to
McDonald's
expedite.
system.
Yeah, stuff
Hmm.
to expedite orders, stuff to do things quickly, efficiently, standards in food so that you always get, or for the most part, get what you ordered the same way, and it's not different. Um, it was really, really interesting, man. Towards the end of the movie, I didn't know what was going to happen because I didn't know too much of the history of McDonald's. So I was kind of hoping for a good ending, and it was kind of a shitty ending at the end. Not the movie's fault, but just how things played out. And it was kind of sad, man. It was kind of sad for the two brothers. It was kind of shitty for the gentleman. I forget his last name. I think his name was Ray
Ray
Kroc,
Kroc.
right? Ray
Yeah.
Kroc. And yeah, man, he made a ton of money off these poor brothers, and it's a really cool movie, documentary kind of thing. I don't know how much of it is true, how much of it is played up, and stuff like that, but really interesting. And a little side note, a lot of it develops here in Illinois. I mean, the first, well, not the first, but the first, according to Ray, McDonald's was
Was in
in Des
this
Plaines.
place.
Yeah, in
Hmm.
Des Plaines. Even though they had the one in San Fernando, and then they had like five other ones in California that the original brothers opened up. So technically, the Des Plaines ones is it the first one, but it's the first one that's in Ray's eyes when he opened
Yeah,
it up.
I remember my dad taking us, well, drove by the displays because it was a museum when I was a kid. You can't go in there and order shit. But I asked him, why is this McDonald's different? He goes, it's the first one ever. And I'm like, huh. And I always thought, well, man, it's only like 20 minutes from my old house where we grew up. So I'm like, oh, that's pretty fucking cool. And then when I kind of saw some documentaries about it, and then, but I never really they got into detail with the California McDonald brothers. They always like the McDonald brothers started the system, but you never really knew the story how McDonald's became McDonald's as we know today. And that movie, I remember watching it, kind of was like, holy shit, like yeah, it was a shrewd business deal how he screwed them over at the end. Yeah.
It's because I heard they didn't want to expand, and he
Yes.
wanted to make it a franchise, and they were like,
Yes.
no, then we lose control and whatever quality can go down. He's like, no, but you're gonna make money, and it's like it's not about money, it's about the legacy you can set a kid.
Yeah.
Right.
Hmm.
And so yeah,
Yeah, because
Yeah.
the first initial franchisees, they were like selling like I think in the movie like fried chicken, and they were adding like lettuce, like it was all this goofy shit. And he's like, it all has to be the same, and he was having problems early with those early franchisees, and like kind of started sharing everything up, and then the brothers were just kind of like a side note, and whatever that deal he forced them into at the end, they got paid, but it was
didn't he get around it by like buying their land or something
yeah,
like that? He's like,
the
I'll rent it to
corporation owned
you or some shit.
everything. Yeah.
Yeah, it was crazy, dude. A lot of like shady shit they did.
Yeah, yeah. Even though McDonald's is kind of shitty food for you, and kind of
Not
sneak peek.
kinda, bro. Not
Well,
kinda.
right, right. Well, sneak peek to the article today. It's not the healthiest shit that you can be eating, but it's delicious for the most part. And I'm a fan of McDonald's. I can't tell you when was the last time I ate there. Probably like a month ago. So I don't eat there too frequently, but it's like one of the staples when I was a kid. So to watch this documentary, it kind of left me a little sour with the whole McDonald's legacy. Like I don't know if I like it as much as I do now
You
after
should
watching
watch
this.
Super Size Me next, dude.
Well, yeah, I've seen Super Size Me and where he like gorges on this food and stuff like that. And I'm aware of it. That's why I don't eat it every day, even though it's cheap, fast, and it's food. But I'm aware that it's not the healthiest, so I only eat it the same way I still eat like Taco Bell once every 2 months and stuff like that. I know it's not the healthiest, but it's like that delicious comfort food that you eat every now and then. But yeah, yeah. For you guys that are interested in the McDonald's history, don't know how much of it is factual, but really cool movie. Check it out, Founders. I believe it's only on Netflix for another month or so, and then I don't know where it's going to go after that. But that's what kind of piqued my interest. I saw a little flag that said it's leaving Netflix, so I'm like, oh, I better watch it before it leaves. But yeah, speaking of watching, Noel, I see that you watched Doctor Sleep, the Shining sequel. I vaguely remember something like this. What's this movie about?
So have you guys seen The Shining, the
The
original
Shinnin?
first?
Yeah, I seen it.
Yeah, that's
Long
with
time ago.
Nicholas or what's this?
Jack
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 Nicholson.
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 Yeah, Jack. There you go.
Stanley Kubrick film.
Yep. Yeah, one of my probably one of my favorite horror films, or the top 10 favorite horror films. Shining, that is. And Doctor Sleep, I slept on it for a long time, no pun intended. 2019 it came out. Ewan McGregor's the main actor in it.
Right.
He plays Danny, which if you remember from the first movie was the son of Jack Nicholson's character. Um, and so Danny, as a boy in the movie The Shining, he has this like psychic ability. It's called The Shining.
The
When,
Shinnin.
and he
Sorry,
can
it's a Simpsons reference.
okay. All right. Yeah, so he's communicating with the dead and stuff, and in the movie they kind of, make it seem like he's crazy, right? Like he talks to himself, and he calls his gift Tony. He gives it a name, and it's technically Tony is his gift, but he kind of makes it so that he can communicate with it to use it better, I guess, or to kind of comfort him. And anyway, Doctor Sleep starts off right in between, like right after uh, the events of The Shining, which I guess I should just spoil it. I mean, it's freaking old. If you haven't seen it, it's
Right.
it's on
I,
you. But Jack Nicholson at the end of The Shining tries to kill his family, his wife, and his son, Danny. And they ended up escaping, and Jack Nicholson ends up getting lost in the maze of the hotel, the Overlook, and he ends up dying of exposure, freezing to death pretty much. And the hotel takes his soul, and he becomes part of the hotel's, haunting, or whatever you want to call it. Danny and his mom end up moving to Florida, and they move there so they never have to see snow again. They can forget about all that and just move on with their lives. And so Danny grows up, um, but before he can grow up, he has to deal with the ghost from the Overlook following him, because his power is so incredible. His ability to be, I guess, communicating with the spirit world is so strong that they seek him out from the Overlook. They follow him from there all the way to Florida to try to get his soul because they want it, right? So he has to find a way to fight him back. And the guy from the initial movie, The Shining, helps him. And he tells him a way to lock him up for forever, essentially. And in his mind, he can create these like caskets that he can put him in and lock him up. And so he does that. If you remember the first Shining, the lady in the bathtub from room 237,
Right.
she ends up showing up at his house in Florida. So he wants to go to the washroom, but he's always scared to go to the washroom because he always sees a ghost. And once he learns how to fight back, he's not scared anymore. He just walks up to the washroom, and you see the lady in there. You see her waiting for him, all fucking grinning and looking like she's gonna murder him. He closes the door behind him, and then that's the last you see of her. You hear her screaming, and you don't see what happens in there. Essentially, what happens is he locks her up, right? And then you fast forward a certain amount of years after that, and he's grown up. Danny's grown up. He's Ewan McGregor at this point. The actor's playing him, and you see he's been going through just a rough time. He's an alcoholic. He's hooking up with strange women, some newly divorced milfs. He's hooking up with,
nice. I gotta see
and
this now.
yeah, he wakes up to
Is
like
it like
fucking
present? I'm sorry, no. Is it present time or is it like because the Shining came out like
2019.
70s or is it 2019?
I believe it would be 2019. It seemed more modern than any kind of like older movie.
Yeah, like yeah. Okay, cool.
Yeah, he's older. He's an older guy
Mm-hmm.
now, probably in his 30s. Anyway, he still has his gift and he can still use it, but he kind of numbs it with alcohol, and that's how he became an alcoholic, kind of like his father was, ironically. And not to kind of spoil the movie, I don't want to give all the details away. I'm just gonna kind of sum it up and say that it did a good sequel in the sense that you took Stephen King's world that he created for The Shining, and you expanded it to include other areas. And so it's not just about the Overlook Hotel. It kind of gets you to think about just the world itself has these types of things going on. It has ghosts, it has like demons, it has psychic people with the shining power. And so it's a really cool, interesting movie. I went into it with no expectations. Like I said, I waited 2 years to watch it, or almost three technically, because it came out early 2019. So definitely recommend it. I give it a 9 in terms of horror movies because I like horror movies. I think in IMDb it got a 7.3 or so, which is still good for a horror movie. It's definitely worth watching. It's got a quality, cinematic feel to it. It still used some of the sound effects from the first movie. Man, it was such a good experience to watch it, and throughout it I wasn't like super surprised, but there were some moments that had me excited because I was hoping they were gonna go in a certain direction and they did, and I was one thing after another happened and I'm just like, yes, I freaking love that they did this and that, and I don't want to spoil it for you guys because it's worth watching. The ending is probably the only thing I would have changed personally. So the movie Doctor Sleep is based on another book of Stephen King's, which is also a sequel to The Shining. And in the end of that book, it ends in a way that I was comfortable with, but the movie decided to go in a different direction. And I was like, well, I mean, I guess you could do it that way, but it just didn't end perfectly. And if they had ended it like they did in the books, it would have been a 10 out of 10, in my opinion, for horror. But it's a 9 out of 10 for that reason.
Yeah, it's weird because I saw Doctor Sleep before I watched The Shining. Now, I had seen The Shining when I was younger, but I had totally forgot about everything. The only thing I remember was the iconic scene where Jack Nicholson is busting through with the axe and the kid's riding his little tricycle thing down the hallway. That's about the only thing that I remembered of The Shining. And then I watched Doctor Sleep, and then I'm like, I gotta go back and watch The Shining. And yeah, man, they were both good movies. I enjoyed them for sure.
Yeah, dude. Awesome movies. Really, it's a long one, another 2.5 hour movie like The Shining was. But I felt like if you can like take a break for like every 30 minutes or every hour, you go, to the washroom or take a drink, it's manageable, You don't have to sit through the whole 2 hours and a half right in one go. But yeah, it's paced pretty well, and I do recommend it for anyone that loves horror or love The Shining. It's a good movie. Another thing I just started watching, it's Titans. I don't know if you guys have seen that at all. I know it's you guys used to be in the comic books. I don't know if you still are, but Titans is a DC show. It's on HBO Max, and so I just started on Thursday. The first three episodes of season three were released, and for anyone that likes Batman or the lore, this is perfect for you. It starts off really aggressive right at the start. I don't know if you guys ever seen The Killing Joke or when
Yeah, I
Robin
seen it.
dies.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so when that's pretty much how it starts off. It starts off with Robin fighting Joker, and you already know how that goes. And you know what Batman does in retaliation, and then it's kind of the aftermath of that. So now the Titans are left filling a void, and it's an intense ride so far. I've liked the quality that they put into it. It definitely is night and day to fucking CW and any of their shows. To me, CW is a waste of DC's money, but HBO Max, they're doing it right. Season three is off to a good start. The first three episodes are out. Episode four comes out Thursday of this. Let's see, what day would it be exactly? It'll be the 26th. Would be episode, or no, I'm sorry, the 19th will be episode four. So yeah, tune in for that if you guys are interested in DC stuff.
Yeah, all I know about the Titans was it was originally on DC Universe, if I remember correctly, their old
Yep.
platform before it all got consolidated into HBO Max. And I read some decent reviews along with the other one, the Doom Patrol,
Yep.
and I always wanted to check them out. My big concern was it was be something like CW ish. Um, but then when I started looking into reviews, it didn't say that. It's just I haven't gotten around time to to dedicating some time and just start watching it. You know.
Yeah, dude. Doom Patrol, Titans, Superman and Lois, those are all good shows produced by DC. Um, Superman and Lois is on CW, but the other two, yeah, they're on HBO Max now. I think
Yeah.
that was a good move, by the way. DC Universe was cool, but I don't think they were going to have enough content the way Disney does to fill it up. And so HBO Max it incorporates all of Warner, so it's probably the best move to have it
Yeah.
on there. You're gonna get more eyes on it as well.
Yeah, because I saw when we got HBO Max when they put all the DC stuff on there, like the Swamp Thing that got canceled real quick. I
That was so
watched a
good,
little.
man.
I watched a little bit of the Harley Quinn animated. It was all right. I mean, I watched a couple episodes. I wasn't like, I don't need to watch it anymore. But I saw Titans was being pushed on there, and Doom Patrol. So I was just like, it's on there. I got it right now HBO Max, part of my cell phone deal. So I'm like, I'll get around to doing it one of these days.
Yeah, dude. Let us know when you do watch it, what your thoughts are. But yeah, so Titan season 3 and yeah, one last thing I wanted to share, Diablo 2, you guys already know I'm a big fan of it. I played it growing up. That pretty much took over my high school years. And Diablo 2 Resurrected, the beta just released on Thursday or Friday. I think Friday. And I didn't get a chance to play it right off the bat, but I did play it yesterday, and the beta that is, because I pre-ordered it a while back. And dude, so far it's pretty freaking cool, man. The graphics are wonderfully done. It's upgraded from what it was before, so I can play a 4K resolution, 60 frames a second, and the effects, the feel is still there. The story obviously is unchanged. It's the same game, just with upgraded graphics and physics and effects. And I think what I love most though is that they actually listen to the customer. When the alpha released, which was 2 or 3 months ago, a lot of the YouTube create content creators were on there playing the game, and they gave their feedback, and the viewers like myself, we would comment on their videos and give our feedback and submit surveys, all that stuff. And they didn't just do that for nothing. They actually took the information and ran with it, and they made the changes that we wanted to see. And so even down to something like the look of lightning, when they released the alpha, it looked blue, and now it looks white like people wanted. And so just something simple like that, the fact that they listened and actually did it, I'm like, man, dude, this might actually be a freaking good experience. Like, you're actually caring about what the customer thinks, and you're going with it. So I'm excited to play a little bit more on that. And when the game comes out September 23rd, I think, definitely gonna be playing that. Not as much as I used to, of course. I have to keep a life, but I can at least unwind here and there and play it.
Is Diablo is that a Blizzard IP or no? Is that they're somebody
Yeah.
else?
No,
They
yeah,
are.
it's a Blizzard. Yeah, it's
Okay.
been with Blizzard since the OG days. But
Because
yeah,
isn't
that's
Blizzard having issues currently or no?
dude, yeah,
Right?
we'll have to do a whole episode on something
Yeah.
like that. There's a lot of sexual harassment going on in the world right
Oh,
now,
okay.
and Andrew Cuomo is getting accused and stuff like that, and Blizzard execs are getting accused, and it's kind of everywhere right now. People are getting on blast
No, yeah, I
for
didn't
all the
know
stuff
that.
that they're doing.
Some guy I was listening to was talking about something, and he was talking about with all the issues that Blizzard's have. He just threw a one liner out there, and I'm like, I don't know. I'll ask Noel
Yeah,
because
dude,
if they're
it's
releasing games, it's still good. But yeah, I know that behind the scenes, I heard there was some. Like I said, I heard that one line. I'm like, I don't know what's really going on. I don't know, it's sexual harassment stuff.
well, it's not just that, but yeah, that's a big part of it, and there's just a lot of shaking up going on in the executives, and people are getting fired. The director of Diablo 4 got fired. A few of the other leaders got fired. One of the I think the president stepped down. They lost like half the customers in World of Warcraft, which was like their moneymaker.
Right.
They released Warcraft 3 Reforged, all broken and janky, and the previous game Warcraft 3, the people that were playing the OG Warcraft 3 were forced to play the new version, the reforged, and the reforged is supposedly just janky, like not
It's
workable.
not smooth, and yeah.
So they really messed up very bad, and their stock has been going down. But Blizzard's looking pretty bad. This is why I was really happily surprised about Diablo 2 Resurrected. I was like, wow, they're actually, really going hard with this. Like they're really trying to make this a success, and it looks like they need to.
Yeah.
Hey, real quick, Noel, are you going to be doing the Back for Blood beta? I heard that's out too.
Back
Uh,
for Blood.
yeah, that's the Left 4 Dead, sequel, but it's not actually Left 4 Dead because they don't have the licensing rights. But it's from the creators of the Left 4 Dead games, and they created this Back for Blood video game that's just like Left 4 Blood. And I know you used to play that, so I was just curious if you were gonna play the beta because I heard it came out last week or this week or something like that.
Interesting, dude. Yeah, it looks like it comes out October 12th. I just Googled it right now. Interesting. I'm glad you mentioned it, man. I had no idea about this, but I'm gonna look into that for sure.
Sweet, man.
Yeah, I'll let you guys know how that goes next time. But yeah, that's pretty much my little updates right there. Uh, Honestly, I don't get as much time to play these games as I used to. Um, Mainly, I'm just trying to stay healthy, man. Trying to mix things up and get through this pandemic unscathed. You know what I mean? So it kind of leads us into the article of the week. Okay, so what we got here this week is a YouTube video instead of a traditional article. I do recommend all our viewers watch this. It is a little bit longer, it's 20 minutes, and it does go into more detail scientifically, but what you get out of it is going to be, worth more than those 20 minutes spent elsewhere. And so what the name of the video is Delta Variant Science plus Why Researchers Say Healthy Living is Essential. This comes from the YouTube channel High Intensity Health. So I do recommend you guys go over there and subscribe to his channel. He talks a lot about just science in general and medicine and how to just live a better, healthier life. And if you guys got a chance to see the video, how do you feel about this his stance on healthy living and the way it's been portrayed in the media regarding this whole pandemic?
Yeah, to me, I think it, reemphasizes some of the stuff we mentioned last week, where why isn't healthy living being one of the first things that they mention with all this COVID stuff going on? And this guy kind of hits it right on the head, where healthy living is essential, man. It's something that you need. You need to eat healthy. You need to stay away from those McDonald's and have a good balanced diet so that you could be able to fight things like this. I like it how he mentions vitamin D being a big part of it, kind of reiterating what we had mentioned and stuff like that. So it was a cool video to watch, and I do suggest everybody tune in and take a look at it.
Yeah, I mean, it's always early on. People would talk about, the supplements, what you need, and they started breaking down the numbers early in the pandemic, and it kind of just reinforces what I mean. I've been kind of reading, and yeah, I mean, taking your vitamin D, the zinc. People who got sick were usually overweight and they had other ailments, diabetes, high blood pressure. Those people are generally not the healthiest, and yeah, I mean, and people were the big tech, they were kind of like downplaying this shit. Like you need the early on from they want vaccine, the jab, and here we are a year and a half later. The vaccines rolled out. It does offer some help, but is not the be all end all. The thing, and he kind of delves into the video saying like, if you were healthier and you did things better, yeah, this wouldn't be as bad for you.
Yeah, yeah, that's very true, man. Uh, One thing I know that he mentioned is that there are scientists, there are doctors saying to eat healthy, but unfortunately, it's not the ones that get the most media coverage. And so it's not really getting widespread out there that people should change their diet because I mean, let's just face it, man. The majority of people that are hospitalized usually have some kind of either pre-existing medical issue or they're just not very healthy individuals to begin with. And a lot of America is obese right now, at least when you look at it from the body mass index. And even if you don't look at it so rigid on that, people still are at least overweight at the minimum. You could say that.
And he in the video again, he goes into our high carb diet here, and generally that's bad shit. It does for
Hmm.
you, along with the sugar, and I didn't
Right.
understand the impact that does on your which kind of brought a big light to me on your respiratory issues, because your all the glucose or whatever does something to your lungs and your cells and enables it to get sicker more and all this stuff. It You just gotta watch. It gets super sciencey, but it does a great job of explaining it. And I didn't know that that you know the sugar or glucose does that. And I was like, well, that's something new. I just learned something, and we already know about hard carbohydrates, how that's so bad for you, and it comes from sugar and bread and all that other stuff. And but that's the better tasting food and the cheaper food, like we talked about, from fast food companies. And like, you get a meal for $5, I can get a nice healthy salad for like $11 or $12 at Panera. And like, you're like, what the fuck? If you're on a budget, it's when you make decisions based off your budget, you're gonna go the cheaper stuff, and not necessarily is the most healthiest for you.
Yeah, you have a point there, man. I know there's a lot of people that are on a, I guess, a constricted budget, so sometimes they have to make these choices that aren't the healthiest, so they can, make ends meet or, pay their rent and stuff. So they have to, go on the cheaper food or go on the sales and stuff and just get whatever is available at the cheapest price. But um, from my experience, and I'm only going to talk about my experience. I'm not a doctor. I'm not going to give out health advice. I'm only going to tell you about what I experienced. And I've switched to a lower carb diet. I've also switched to organic diet. Uh, I still eat meat, but I eat a grass fed or free range chicken. I eat wild caught fish or seafood. And this change has brought about like just night and day difference in terms of my well-being, my cognitive ability, my ability to rest and sleep well. Just all around, it's helped me. I was actually getting to a point where I was getting heartburn every day, and I didn't know what was going on. I'm like, is this just getting old? My back would hurt. I would wake up with a sore back. I was like, what the hell? And it's just a lot of aches in the joints. And I was like, damn, dude, this is getting old. Is like fuck. I thought I was doing okay. And then I was starting to look into it more, and carbs, while they're not the enemy, your body does need some. It loves glucose. It's so accustomed to glucose, but it can run on fat. And that's when, like years ago, I started doing intermittent fasting to train my body to run on fat, to train it to make ketone bodies that could use that as energy and not just purely run on glucose. Because once it purely runs on glucose, or a majority of it runs on glucose, your body starts giving you those cravings for carbs. And I would realize that. In the night, I would get cravings for chips, I would get cravings for cookies and whatever else, cake, whatever. Now, all that stuff's terrible for you, right? Carbs increase inflammation, and with the increased inflammation, your body can't work optimally. It's kind of like putting sugar in your car. Your car is gonna run like a piece of shit. Like it's not gonna do it, and it's gonna struggle and struggle until it just blows up. And that's kind of what bodies are going through. Our human bodies are just getting bombarded with these chemicals and these just inflammatory things that are destroying our bodies little by little until we can't even fight off something as simple as a cold. And so I decided to change all that. I have to say, for me personally, it's been a blessing. I'm glad I realized this before it got too late. The heartburn is gone. I don't have that in the. I don't go to sleep with heartburn and wake up with like a freaking sore throat because acid was in there all night. I start sleeping better. I think I got rid of my sleep apnea. I know some people get that when they get older, and I was feeling like the early signs of that, where you wake up in the middle of the night, you're like, what the fuck happened? And that's usually like you gasping for breath, and that's why. So I started sleeping better through the night. I'm not thrashing anymore, I guess you could say. And just overall, I feel better, man. Just uh, I don't even know how to word it. Just feel better. So I do recommend you guys look into this video, and if you can, make little changes to your diet to just live a better, healthier life and get through this pandemic.
No, I agree, man. I think little subtle changes to your diet, sometimes you can notice big differences. And I know that's a big one. Carbs. I try to limit my carbs. And I remember when I used to eat breakfast, menudo, or whatever the case, and I used to eat like a docena of tortillas, a dozen tortillas.
Hmm.
And to me, it was just normal. That's just the way you ate. And uh, just stuff like that, I've cut back a ton. Where now, if I do have menudo, I have two tortillas or something. And it'd probably be best for me to cut it all out. But I've found a big difference in just things like that. I've cut out all soft drinks. I don't drink any kind of soft drink at all. And I saw a big difference and stuff like that. Just little incremental changes to your diet can really help out.
Yeah, it's I mean, we're it's not the first time when I've had my drastic weight loss is a couple times. The last one, it was the second one was a lot of just what you ate, and like you said, Noel, once you eat like better and you cut a lot of that processed and like carbs out, it's night and fucking day how you feel, and you feel like you got more energy, and because you're not eating like fucking just crap. I mean, I call it fake food when you go to the fast food places because it's just everything's fucking processed to a bone. It's just processed like a motherfucker. I mean, there's no easy way of saying it. And when you eat more protein and vegetables, and you cut off carbs and like sugar stuff, and yeah, you feel better. Like I completely cut off. I used to drink a ton of pop, when I was younger. I went to Diet Coke, and then at the end, a couple years back, I stopped drinking that, and that was probably the hardest shit I went through because the caffeine and the aspartame and all that shit. I went through like 2 weeks. I just constant fucking headaches, and then once I got rid of that, I just drink a lot of like seltzer water and or like LaCroix and all that, and I haven't gone back to any of that. I try to avoid uh, drinks with zero sugar, especially if they have like the NutraSweets and all that, and the those things, because I've read about that, and once in a while I might get like a sports drink with zero sugar or something like that, zero, and I enjoy it, but I'm not too back at the levels where I was before. Nowhere near when I was just drinking diet cokes or diet sodas.
Yeah, man, it's definitely hard to change at first, especially if you change like everything. Like if you just completely cut out everything bad in your diet and just change overnight, it's going to be incredibly difficult. I found it best to just cut out little by little, week by week, cut out one thing, cut out another thing every week, and I'll have a cheat day here and there, but I think I'm not going to do that as often anymore because so the other day, Wednesday, I think it was, I had some ice cream. I had like a little cheat day, and I had some ice cream that night. And I kid you not, bro, the next day, I felt like I was hungover, just so lethargic, so just tired. And it wasn't like I thought that was gonna happen. I just ate the ice cream, and I was thinking, okay, the next day is gonna be a normal day, whatever. But I woke up just feeling like garbage, dude, just tired, and I didn't want to do anything. I was just sleepy half the day, and I was like, man, I think what it is that my body wants more glucose, and since it's not getting that, it's just gonna make me feel sluggish, and I have to train my body to run off of the fat I have because I have fat stores, so it should be able to run off of that. And that's why I do intermittent fasting. So when I wake up, and this is just me, I don't recommend it for everyone, especially if you're diabetic. You have to look into it, talk to your doctor. But for me, I don't eat after I wake up for at least 5 hours after I wake up.
Damn.
Yeah, like I won't eat until like 4 p.m. today, probably. So,
Because you're
and
doing the fasting, right?
but see, it's like it's just a regular thing for me. It's not like I am doing fasting, but that's just my life now. It's not
Yeah.
like I have it on the agenda, like, oh, I'm gonna fast today.
I seen
It's
some
just me.
stuff on that, yeah, and I know somebody at work that did it, and they were doing pretty good, and then they did for like a couple months, and then just had like a complete relapse like a month ago. They're
Yeah.
like fucking eating all this crappy food and drinking more, and they're like, I gotta get back on this fasting because it helped. She would talk about like she'd had more energy and all this stuff, and she would just have like a cup of coffee in the morning, like that was it, and then like she just completely fell off the wagon. So it was kind of not funny to see, but I'm like, she did it for a good amount of time and she felt great, and then I think she started dating and it just went downhill from there.
Yeah, it takes time, man. The best you can do is just put effort. That's all you really need, man. Just keep putting effort into your diet, into your health, and then you'll see the changes.
I don't think Danny's gonna be doing any fasting anytime soon.
No, I don't think so, man. I lived a good life.
One last thing I want to want to say is Dr. Stan Ekberg. Let me bring it up here. He has his channel. He talks a lot about fasting and stuff. He was a former Olympic decathlete, and he is somebody that I would recommend people look into. He has a lot of cool videos, a lot of things about health and like just diet and how to live well. And his name is Dr. Sten Ekberg. He's on YouTube. So
Yeah, I might check them out. I've been thinking about the fasting the last couple months. Is just finding the right, I guess, the time to eat. Because what I read about it, like the 8 on off and all this goofy stuff, I might find it might be a little challenging for me to say. Just, but I gotta work. I'm probably gonna try it.
the best thing is like when you try it and then you see some results and it just gets you to keep trying it harder because you want to keep those results coming. And that's what I found for me, at least. I feel better and I'm just like, I want to keep this going because
Yeah.
I know what it was like to feel bad.
Mm-hmm.
Just like if you ever get a cold or like a really bad cold where you have like a fever or whatever, and then you're like, man, dude, I fucking hate this. I can't even enjoy watching a movie or anything. And then when you become so much more grateful when you're healthy that you're like, I never want to get sick again, dude, because that sucks so bad. So that's kind of how I am now. It's like I don't want to go back to this old way of living because I know it wasn't good for me.
Especially in with the coof, it the challenges is that present. Yeah, just all it does long term is gonna help you out.
No, and I know everybody wants to keep hearing this podcast go, Andy, but I think that's about it. We'd like to thank you all for listening. Thank you all for tuning in and being here with us. Remember, follow us on Facebook and Twitter at Freeform Network. Send in those questions, ffnquestions@gmail.com. And then hit that like and subscribe button in whatever place you're viewing it or listening to this. We really appreciate it. It does help our numbers. But for Freeform Radio, I got Andy.
It's all good, Andy. We'll talk to you guys next time.
And we got Noel.
Thank you for listening, everybody. Live long, live strong.
Oh, shit. That almost sounded like Star Trek Spock, man. And for me, thank you all for listening. We really appreciate it. We really appreciate all the likes and all the kind words on social medias. Hope you tune in on the next one. Thank you.
Dad.